Hello, I am Cal and welcome. In this one we're going to be looking at putting the power supply into our retro gaming build. If you're interested in retro gaming, please give me a like and subscribe and follow this series with me because we're going to be covering more than just the hardware and be looking at software as well. So in this one we're going to be putting in the power supply. If you look at the actual power supply itself, where it connects, you'll see that it's got 4 screws. 1, 2, 3 and then 4. This is the usual configuration for a tower PC, but if you look on the actual case itself, it's got 4 screws, but this is for a cage. So what we're going to have to do is undo these 4 screws and see what the cage looks like. Okay, so this is the cage that we've taken off. This is the way that it's set in the case, i.e. this way. But the configuration for the actual screws to connect it to the power supply is on the back. So what you're going to have to do is take this out of the way. Get our power supply and then connect the 4 screws to it and then screw this bracket back into the case. So what we need to do is get the screws that come with the power supply to connect the bracket. Usually the power supply just fits into the case and then it gets screwed directly into the case. Why they've got an included bracket, I don't know. Must have their reasons. So I'm just resting the power supply in the power supply box. I've got the 4 screws, I've got the bracket lined up the way that I want it. So all I'm going to do is just put the screws into the actual bracket. Okay, that's all nice and tight then. All we need to do now is pop it back in the case and then secure it inside the case using these 4 screws here. But before that, I'm just going to put the motherboard in first. What I am doing is I'm going to use the actual cooler to help me place the motherboard in. Just resting it there at the moment. Trying to make sure that all the parts, all the ports are matched up. I'm not putting any stress or strain on any of the prongs that stick out and touch the motherboard. I'm making sure that they're all fitted in okay. And it seems that that is okay. What you have to think about is, because the prongs are sticking out the back of the I/O shield, as you're pushing the motherboard in, they're pressing against the prongs. So you might find that the motherboard is slightly pushed out, and what you need to do is possibly push it in a little bit in order for you to get the screws in. As long as you're sure that all the ports have lined up correctly and these metal tabs are touching the right places on the motherboard, i.e. non-sticking out, then we can start putting the screws in. I've got to reseat this one because you can see here the HDMI cable, the metal prong is actually sticking in the actual port itself, and it should be this side of the port, not actually inside it. So I've got to take it back out and put it back in. So here we can see that the holes have aligned with the contacts on the back of the case. And now we can start looking at screwing in to secure it. What I have got to do is remove this fan because it's in the way of one of the holes. But at least it's not the cooler they've got to take off, it's just the fan. So I'm just going to remove that and then we'll get back to it. So we need this one, type C. There's actually 16 of these, so we only need 8 for the motherboard, so the rest must be for drives and things. So I'll find 8 of these. Line your screws up. This is where a good magnetic screwdriver will come in useful. Just get the screws bitten, i.e. you're just putting the screws in just to make sure that they're all covered and they're all in the standoff, they're all lined up, and then go around the whole of the board, put all of them in, just get them bitten but don't actually tighten them yet. Wait until you've got all of them in before you start tightening them up, alright? When you do tighten them up, only do it nice and snug, don't over tighten them because you're going to damage the board. So I went round a couple of times, did a couple of revolutions and just made sure that it was all nice and tight in the end, nice and snug. I think what we'll try next is connecting all these little cables up from this port up to the motherboard. So you've got your USB ports and your power and your audio and things and the reset button. Okay, right, so what I need to concentrate on now is cable management. So we've got HD audio lead, we've got USB port lead to plug in, and then we've got all of these cables here for the power button, the LED indicator and all that kind of thing. They're all on the one thing. So with the HD audio, we are now looking at the back of the case. So what I'm thinking about doing is just routing this through here, through the bottom, and then hopefully we can spin that round so it tucks into the bottom of the back of the case. All the audio leads are this side, so they're bottom right as we're looking. It's bottom left, but might put them through here, might put them through there. Same with the USB cable. The USB cable is sort of towards the middle of the motherboard on the right hand side. So we're just going to feed these through and see what we can do. Right, so I routed my audio cable through the bottom here, and that's going to be plugged into this socket here. I just wish there was a way that I could reverse time and show you how to put this in. Wish I had a time machine. Wish I had help. Hello future Cal, I am past Cal. Believe you need my help. HD audio lead fits in the bottom left hand side of the board, and if you notice with the audio lead there's a missing pin, and if you look at the board there's a missing pin on the top right hand side. So you know it can only fit in one way. So gently line it up. Make sure you've got the missing pin on the top right hand side, and then just push down on the socket and that'll slip in. And that's that in the board. Right, back to you then. Enjoy your new audio, future Cal. What a helpful chap that man is. So now all the front panel, switches, power button, reset switch and all that kind of thing go to this slot here. And I wonder if that helpful chap will come back again. Please help. Past Cal. Hello past future Cal, you need my help, do you? Right, well all of these are all labelled quite clearly of what they are, and if you look at page 27 of the manual, they actually signify here which ports to actually plug these sockets into, and the positive and negatives are actually written on the front of the actual switches themselves, or plugs, and if they're not, then the positive end will have a little triangle on. You can pick that up on the actual camera. The positive side has got a little triangle on. There we go, you see it now. And they are plugged into the bottom right hand side of the motherboard here. So we'll do the power LEDs first then. So positive and negative. So positive is the top left and the negative is to the right of that on the top line. So I'm just going one at a time. Put that one in, it just slides in, and then the negative next door to that, right next door. Okay, and then we've got the power switch. So we've got minuses on, well, positive is on the left, and that just goes next door to that. And then we'll do HD light, positive and negative. So positive and negative just underneath the P LED, positive and negative. Just slot that in. And then we just got the reset switch to do. Right, so with the reset switch, just going by the manual, it looks as though we've got HD, LED, plus and then minus, then we've got a ground. Then we've got reset and then a ground. So I'm going to use these two end ones, this reset and ground. So I'm going to skip this one in the middle, which is unusual. But it means that all the writing matches up on the underside. And those are all in nice and tight. Back to you, future Cal. What a helpful chap that bloke is. So now I've got my USB ports and I've got to plug it into this one. So I wonder if he'll help out again. Past Cal, please help. What was that, future Cal? You need my help again? Luckily I am holding the USB port, and if you've got the bottom of the motherboard here, it goes in the right hand side, sort of towards the middle of the board itself. And if you notice, the USB plug has a little notch in the middle, and if you look at the port, there's a little missing notch there. So all you do is just line it up and then just slide it in. It'll only go in one way. Make sure you push firmly and it should click in. Back to you, future Cal. So that's all of those in then. So my thanks to past Cal to help plumb all these in, because it's quite hard to film this while it's in the case. When you can, just support the back of the motherboard when you're pushing these cables in, because you don't want to damage the motherboard itself. Right, next on to what's missing, the power supply. So what I am going to do is I'm going to put this face down. So what I'm going to do is just make sure I don't knock any of these wires. So I'm going to carefully place this in, and hopefully when I place this in it'll hide these wires at the bottom, but not actually force them out of where they are. Right, so all I've done is I've rerouted the audio lead a bit better through the case, so there's more length, and that's enabled this to fit through the little hole here, and there's a little hole at the bottom of the power supply, and that's routed it better then. And there's no strain on the cable. I can actually pull on this and get some more cable through if I wanted to. What I'll do is just make sure it's nice and flat that side. Okay, so what we need to do now is get the screws and then secure this to the case. Alrighty then, so what we need to do then is just tighten these up. What I want to do is just get a little bit of a bite there and then hold it from the opposite side. I just want to make sure that wire is still okay. Yep, a lot of movement on there, or a little bit of movement. There's no stress on the cable. What I always do with all of things is I just do opposite corners diagonally. Nice and tight this one, we don't want this moving around. I thought there might be an issue with this case, but I just want to check that before I go any further, just to make sure this thing bloody fits. Oh, just about. Look how close that is. That's poor design, that is. Poor design, but at least it fits. So what we need to concentrate on now is routing these. So I'll do the CPU one first, and that one goes right in the very corner there, just there, just by the edge of my fingertip. So I wish we had somebody that could help us, just to show us how to put this in properly. Cal from the past, are you there? Hello future Cal, what can I help you with? You need help with the CPU power. This lead here you mean? Right, so with this one, we've got 2 4s. The actual motherboard itself is 8, so we need both of these plugged together. If you can see on the back of these as well, there's a little clip and a little clip fits into the back of here. There's a little lip here which it clips onto. What you just need to do is just line them up. There's no bracket holding these together, so we just have to physically try and do it ourselves. So just line them up to the hole. There we go. And then just push them in. And there we are. Nicely placed. And they're held in place by the little bracket there. Right, back to you, Future Cal. Man, he's a real helpful chap in him. But what we need to do now is put this main power lead in for the motherboard itself. So it's a 20+4. And now what we need to do is plug it into this one here. And I wish there was somebody that could help us to show us how to do this. Cal from the past, are you there? Hello, Future Cal. So you need my help again, do you? Right, so this is with the motherboard power supply, which is a 24-pin adapter. On this one that we've got, we need to just attach the 4-pin to the 20-pin, and if you can see there's a little bracket there that helps us do this, and there's also one on the back, so it's just clipping over, and also you've got a little clip here which helps clip into the actual bracket on the motherboard. So you know it's going to go this way because that's where the clip is. So you just line it up as best you can, and then just push it down. If you're doing this inside the motherboard, put your finger behind the motherboard just to give it a little bit of support as you're doing it, and then just slide it down. You don't want to bend the motherboard when it's in the case. Back to you, Future Cal. Man, he's a real helpful chap in him. So I've reconnected the fan then, and then I've just plugged it in this port down here. What I want to do is just put this back on as well. But what I want to do is get rid of this label, bright yellow label. The other one I can't remove because it's void if I remove it, so I just want to test, see if everything works first before I remove the other one. Right, that's it all wired up then now. What I want to do, because this cooler is quite high, just want to check that the cover still fits, and it does. Yeah, it's millimeters there. So that's one thing you need to check. If you do buy a special cooler, just make sure that it's going to have the right height to fit in the case. PC part picker. There we are then, all complete. The only awkward thing I can think of with this build is putting the CPU cable in, the main power. It was a bit awkward with this cooler in the way. If you are interested in this cooler, there's going to be a separate video for that, but if you've got the AMD one, then there shouldn't be an issue. Just that if you are going to turn this on and test it, just make sure that all your cables are away from the back of the motherboard here. Keep them well out of the way. In the next build video, we're going to look at adding the drivers and a bit of cable management and software install, you know, Windows 10. You'll see the odd video popping up with emulation. If you haven't checked it out, I've done one on DuckStation already. My name is Cal. Have a good morning, afternoon or good evening. Farewell till next time, and we'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Fresh from the oven.